You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and there's no bigger story than the guilty verdict that Derek Chauvin received for murdering George Floyd. I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on this. It was pretty open and shut. I mean, we all saw the video. We all saw Floyd saying, "I can't breathe." Chauvin refusing to take his knee off Floyd's neck. Yes, Derek Chauvin deserved to be found guilty of all counts. It's undoubtedly the right thing that he was found guilty of all three counts. Everyone in America celebrated. And you know what? The American justice system works. It used to not work. There have been only 7 murder convictions of cops for fatal shootings since 2005. Mind you, that's dealing with shootings. Chauvin never fired his gun, and he was still found guilty. The justice system works. I truly think that this will be the start of a new era of police accountability. The deaths of Michael Brown, Philando Castile, Eric Garner, Freddie Gray, Tamir Rice, Breonna Taylor, Daniel Prude, and hundreds of others didn't lead to murder and or manslaughter convictions. So what's to stop a racist cop from looking at those lack of convictions and saying, you know what? I can kill black people with impunity. The change that people talk about, it hasn't happened. That's changed now. See, now the floodgates have opened. Now, I truly think you're going to see more cops held accountable. Kim Potter, who murdered Dante Wright, I think you'll see her held accountable. The cop who killed Adam Toledo, you'll probably see him being held accountable. This doesn't mean that the institutional racism within police departments all over this country has now been removed. We've got a long way to go before that happens. In fact, I don't know if it'll ever be fully eradicated. But this is a start. This can be the start of something really, really good. Something that's been long overdue for an incredibly long time. Police being held accountable for their killings of unarmed black people. What did I say after George Floyd died? I said hopefully his death won't be in vain. It'll spark some real change. You're seeing that change now. Again, we're not done. The fight for equality isn't over yet. Not by a long shot. But it's a start. And I will say this. It is kind of telling that there was still a sliver of doubt in people's minds that Chauvin would be acquitted of 1, 2, or all charges, even though the case was so open and shut. I'm not going to lie to you. I was nervous watching the verdict. These racist cops, they're never convicted. Another one's going to get away with it. If Chauvin gets away with it, what needs to happen for someone to be convicted? I mean, my heart was beating pretty fast, I'm not going to lie to you. Then Chauvin was found guilty of all 3 counts, and I cheered. I pumped my fist. I was happy. I don't know for how long Derek Chauvin is gonna be behind bars, but I do hope it's the rest of his life. I do hope he dies in prison. I know that the other inmates in whatever jail he rots in will take very good care of him. And it's funny, usually the prison guards take good care of the former cops that are in prison. I don't think that's going to be the case here. Derek Chauvin is a disgrace to the badge. The minute George Floyd said that he couldn't breathe, and Chauvin refused to remove his knee from Floyd's neck, Chauvin ceased being a cop and became a monster. A disgusting human being. A waste of life. I wouldn't look out for Chauvin if I was a prison guard. The blue wall of silence. I understand what it's there for. I get the theory, but what it's been used for is to let cops go free after killing unarmed black people, after going way too far in quote-unquote riot control. Now, hopefully, these cops have learned that it's okay to break the blue wall if you're gonna remove a monster from the streets who masquerades as a cop. At the end of the day, a guy like Chauvin makes all cops look bad. It's very easy for people to point at a guy like Chauvin and say, see, this is why we hate the police. The reality is, there are a lot of good cops out there. A lot of people join the force because they genuinely want to do good. They want to serve their community. They want to put bad people away. And they don't condone the actions of people like Chauvin and Potter. But they're lumped in with the bad cops because they wear the badge. That makes them look bad, and it makes all police look bad. I mean, that's why you noticed all those cops testifying against Chauvin. They realized that. They wanted to make sure that Chauvin was held accountable for his actions. The job of the police, at the end of the day, is to put the bad people away. The cops who testified against Chauvin did that. I applaud them. I applaud the American judicial system for getting this right. On a selfish note, I'm happy that no games were postponed. I understand that there were more important things in play. But again, on a selfish note, I'm glad that all games went on as scheduled. I saw all three of my sports teams win yesterday. The Yankees, Islanders, and Nets. Alright, I'm happy. The Yankees snapped their losing streak. The Islanders destroyed the Rangers. And the Nets won a tough game against the Pelicans. I don't know if I would have seen all of that if justice wasn't served. You know that there would have been postponements if Chauvin was acquitted. You know it. The NBA sent a memo to their teams outlining procedures about what to do in that case. I saw this on Twitter a long time ago. I don't remember who said it, but the tweet was that sports are the reward for having a functioning society. I have a tough time disagreeing with that. I mean, let me tell you, if Chauvin was acquitted, this isn't a functioning society. But like I said, the justice system worked. This guy's going to be off the streets for a really long time. It's kind of interesting. A lot of people were on a knife's edge over this verdict. Not because anyone thought he was innocent, but because they were afraid he'd get away with it. This trial did captivate the nation. Websites were reporting on it every day. The verdict was shown live all over this country. I think it was even shown at Times Square. The country was at a fever pitch, which in and of itself is wrong. Like I said, an airtight case like this. And there's still that sliver of doubt in the back of your mind that he could get away with it. The system works. A monster is going to be locked away for a long time. And thank God that the death of George Floyd wasn't in vain. There is some good in this world. This is the first step in cementing in the judicial system that black lives absolutely matter. Alright, I brought up the Nets a little earlier. Yes, they beat the Pelicans, but that's not why I want to talk about them. James Harden suffered a setback in his recovery from his hamstring injury. It seemed like he was going to be back sooner rather than later. Now he's out indefinitely. Steve Nash said that he could be back by the playoffs. It could be a little before the playoffs. So much for chemistry, right? There's now a real chance that the next game that Kevin Durant, James Harden and Kyrie Irving play in together is Game 1 of the Eastern Conference quarterfinals. Yeah, this is tough. There's no way around it. Forget not having the big three together. The Nets have shown that they can win with just two or even one member of the big three playing. But I do think there is something to be said about chemistry. I really thought that the Nets were going to use these last couple weeks of the season that we have coming up to get the big three more used to each other. Realize they've only played in 7 games together. Also, I know that seeding really doesn't matter a lot at the end of the day, especially this year where arenas aren't at full capacity, but the 1 seed would have been really nice. It's not impossible that the Nets can get the 1 seed. They're only a half game behind the Sixers, but boy, Harden would have helped. So much for getting another ball handler. I'll say that. Mike James, you can't get here soon enough. Oh, and a couple things about that. Some people reached out to me and said the meme is actually Mike Jones, not Mike James. Okay, I messed that up. I'm sorry. But some people brought up the fact that Chris Chiozza is hurt. I was talking like he was still playing. I know Chris Chiozza's hurt. What I meant was after the Harden and Johnson injuries, we saw more of Chiozza. The Nets needed a ball handler long before yesterday. That was my point. I mean, you really don't think I know that Chris Chiozza's hurt? Come on. I watch every game. Give me some respect, please. Look, here's the one thing I'll say. The Nets can still get the 1 seed. It's very, very possible. Maybe Durant will miss a few games, but the Sixers aren't 100% right now either. Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons at this very moment are still out. I don't know if they're going to play against the Suns or not. If they do, they're not going to be at 100%. Same thing with Durant. If Durant plays against the Raptors, he's not going to be at 100%. But Kevin Durant is such a freak that even if he's at 90%, he's better than the vast majority of the league. I can't say that about guys like Harris and Simmons. And also, going back to the chemistry point, the Nets' first round series does have the possibility of being a cakewalk. If the Nets play the Hornets in the first round, that's an easy win. If the Nets play the Pacers, that's an easy win. If the Nets play the Bulls, that's an easy win. They haven't been as dominant as I thought they'd be after adding Vujovic. If the Nets play the Wizards, it's not an easy win, but the Nets should still win that series. If the Nets play the Raptors, that's an easy win. They can use the first round as a feeling out process. I understand that's risky, alright? We've had plenty of first round upsets over the years. And if they're matched up with a team like the Celtics or Heat, They can't do that. But the talent gap is so massive between the Nets and the Hornets, Pacers, Bulls, Raptors, and maybe Wizards that it'll be fine. Maybe they won't be the most convincing of wins, but when the Nets get past the first round, the big three will have more games together under their belt. They'll be more acquainted with each other. Steve Nash will know what works and what doesn't. So, once that second round hits, you'll be a little more comfortable with each other. Does this injury sting? No question. But the Nets are so talented that can supersede chemistry. And also, Durant and Harden are with the Nets. They're with the team. They're still getting a feel for everything. It's not like they're at home playing MLB The Show on their Xbox, which I was doing last night. Oh my God, did I miss it? So maybe they won't be 100% familiar with each other, but it won't be like you're dropping a goldfish into a new tank. They won't be running around, banging into each other like crazy, while looking like they should be playing at the local YMCA. No, they'll have an idea of how to play with each other. At the end of the day, a starting lineup of Harden, Irving, Harris, Durant, and Griffin, with a bench of Shamet, Brown, Green, Johnson, and Claxton, is better than any 10-man rotation in the NBA. The Nets are fine. This stings. There's no question. And it stings that Durant isn't playing tonight. I just saw that he's out. But the Nets will be fine. There's too much talent there. They'll make it work. I promise you. I really think they're going to win the NBA title. Alright, now I'll give you some NHL Valk talk. And I'll start with Blue Jackets Panthers. The Panthers goalie last night was Spencer Knight, the 13th overall pick in the 2019 draft. He was playing in his first ever NHL game. And he wasn't fazed by the bright lights. He stopped 33 of the Blue Jackets' 34 shots. The one goal he let up was on the power play. It was scored by Jack Roslovich. I can live with a goalie giving up a power play goal. That's fine. So in Knight's first ever NHL game, he didn't allow an even strength goal. His team scored 5 goals. Needless to say, the Panthers won. It's kind of interesting. The Panthers signed Sergei Bobrovsky to a big deal in free agency in the 2019 offseason. Right before that, they drafted Knight. Now, I don't really follow the NHL draft, but from what I read about Knight, he was a very talented prospect. He was the first goalie taken in the 19 draft. He was the only goalie taken in the first round. Usually when goalies go in the first round, they're pretty special. Teams usually like to spend their first rounders on skaters, not goalies. You've got to be really talented if you're a first round goalie. Everything that I read about Knight said that he was talented, so it was a little confusing that the Panthers signed Bobrovsky to that huge deal. I did think he was gonna go to the Islanders, especially when they lost Robin Lehner. I mean, let's be real, the Panthers may have a little bit of a goalie controversy on their hands. Maybe you don't want to give Knight the reins right now, but in a year or two, yeah, you can do that. I'll say this. As good a year as Chris Driedger is having as Bobrovsky's backup, Knight is much more talented. And it is worth noting that Bobrovsky is signed for the next 5 years. The next 3 years, he has a no movement clause. The last 2, he can put half the league on a no trade list. Look, they've got a ways to go before they have a full-blown goalie controversy on their hands. At the end of the day, there is nothing wrong with doing a 1A, 1B setup. But you did sign Bobrovsky to a deal that pays him $10 million a year. You don't want that guy to be in a 1A, 1B setup. You want him to be the true number 1. I can see on the horizon a goalie controversy with the Panthers. It's not there yet, but it will be in a year or 2. As for the Blue Jackets, for the love of God, fire John Tortorella. He's worn out his welcome in Columbus. He's a good coach, I'm not knocking him, but his act can grow stale very, very quickly. I think his act has grown stale in Columbus. The Blue Jackets have lost 7 straight. They're tied with the Red Wings for last place in the Central Division. The Blue Jackets made the playoffs last year. That's inexcusable. Moving on now to probably the craziest game of the season. Devils Penguins. The Penguins stormed out to a 6-0 lead after 2 periods. They were up 4-0 after 1, 6-0 after 2. Everyone turned that game off. The 4,672 fans that were at PPG Paints Arena all either left or were buried in their cell phones. Then something crazy happened. The Devils scored 3 goals in under 10 minutes. So it's 6-3 with over 10 minutes left. Sidney Crosby scores to make it 7-3. You think it's out of reach. But no, right after that, Jack Hughes and Nolan Foote make it 7-5. We've got a game here. Andreas Janssen scores an empty netter. Makes it 7-6. The Penguins did hold on. They did win. They got the 2 points. The Devils didn't get any. Usually I say it doesn't matter how you win, it just matters if you win. That game took that credo to the limit. You can't allow 6 goals in the third period, especially to the freaking New Jersey Devils. I mean, my God. Sidney Crosby's meaningless goal halfway through the third turned out to be the game-winning goal. Tristan Jarry, what are you doing? You've still got a game to put away. Get your act together. Your team is sitting pretty. They chased Scott Wedgwood. Aaron Dell came in relief. You're up 6-0 after 2. It's okay if you don't get the shutout, but, you've got to put the team away. I mean, shut the door. You can give up 3 goals. That's okay. If it's 6-3, 7-3, hell, you know what? Let's make it 4. If it's 7-4, okay. That's still a 3-goal win. You didn't let the game become really interesting. That's an okay win. Then it becomes 7-5 and then 7-6. Can you imagine if the Devils actually came back to tie the game, to force overtime, or even win it? There would have been a lot of ticked off Penguins fans, let me tell you. I mean, they did get the win. I guess you can't get too upset. But that win had to leave a bad taste in your mouth. The offense showed up, but the defense didn't. Jarry was inept in the third period. If the season ends today, the Islanders are slated to face the Penguins in the first round of the playoffs. I like the Islanders' chances in that series, let me tell you. Moving on now to Maple Leafs Canucks. And let me tell you, the Leafs are in trouble. They've lost 5 straight. I don't care that they're still in first place in the North Division. They are playing terrible hockey right now. In 4 of their last 5 games, they've only scored 2 goals. Yesterday, they scored 3. Oh my God. That's incredible. They gave up 6. David Rittich was dreadful. He allowed this incredibly soft goal to Tanner Pearson. Let me tell you, there are goalies in juniors that could have stopped that goal. Go search it out. It's the kind of goal that makes you want to slap some sense into Rittich. My guy, what are you doing? The Leafs traded for you to fortify their goalie depth. You can't have games like that. I mean, let me tell you, the best goalie for the Leafs, bar none, is Jack Campbell. Okay, he had the bad game against the Jets last week. I get that. But he did keep you in the game against the Canucks. It's absolutely incredible if you stop and think about it. The Canucks come back from their almost month-long COVID break. They beat the Leafs twice. That's why you gotta love sports. But Campbell wasn't the reason why they lost that game. He only allowed 2 goals in regulation. The Leafs just couldn't score. I don't feel good about them right now. They seem to be cooling off at the wrong time. You want to head into the playoffs with a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence. The Leafs don't have that right now. They look lost. I mean, look, they'll make the playoffs. There's no question about that, but don't look now. The Jets are only 4 points behind them in the North Division. The Oilers are only 5 points behind them. Could the Leafs drop to the 3 seed? It's very possible. Let me tell you. The Leafs need to get their act together quickly. Or else I'm going to put them on upset alert when the playoffs get started. Tomorrow you're going to get the NFL mock draft special that I'm going to do with Nick Ornberger. We're not going to do just the first round. We're not going to do just the second round. We're going to do the top 66 picks. If you want a sneak peek into the rules that we're going to follow, you can search out the previous mock drafts that we've done. I will explain them tomorrow, though. Until then, I am Jacob Valk saying that Bruce Benedict was so slow that he'd finished third in a race with a pregnant woman.